Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. And give everybody a second to get on in here. Let's see here. Hello, guys. Hey, Weld, Hector, Andrew. Great to see you. Hope everybody's doing great today. This beautiful lady next to me is Cindy Bennett. She is running for state rep in New Hampshire. And I am just so excited to have her today. I am so proud of her. We worked together a little bit in the past on social media, and now to see her stand up for the people of New Hampshire, I think it's absolutely amazing, and she is such a great role model for everybody out there. And I'm a proud Patriot sister here.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be with you because I'm just really excited for all that you're doing. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your standing up and doing your part.
Well, no,
And
thank you.
thanks for having me.
Your part's a little bit harder, I think, but
I don't
why
know.
don't
Depends.
why don't you go ahead and explain to everybody what made you want to run for office?
Well, it's not really been a long time thing. It just been since like in 2020 when all the craziness came out and I realized what was going on and I started going to classes actually in my state activism classes. I didn't even know what that really was. And I started going to the state house and I met some friends, patriot friends. And
Nice.
before I knew it, I was running for school board. I ran for library trustee. And I am also on the ethics committee in my town. And
Very
I
nice.
just kind of just was out and doing this and doing that and trying to do my part. And then it just within the last cycle, we have every 2 years, we vote on representatives for the state. And in New Hampshire, we have 400 state representatives. Yeah,
Wow.
it's one of the biggest legislatures in the entire country. And we're a teeny tiny state.
I did not know
So,
that. That's amazing.
yeah, so we have quite a history. So that means that when you get to the state house, you are yeah, it's an honor to be voted in, but it's also you're among mostly citizens. I mean, there are some long time, political, people who've been there forever. But
Right.
the way our legislature is set up, that it is possible for somebody like me, a stay-at-home mom, turned homeschooler, turned school teacher, to become a state representative. And I was asked by this guy. He was a state rep the last 2 years, and we have some other people running in our town, but their votes have not been as conservative as we would like. And so he asked myself and
Yeah.
this guy Bryan to run with him because we get 3 reps in our town. So we're sort of running together to have a 3-in-1 vote. Like this guy Mike, he has like an A+ conservative on everything. And
Nice.
so we want to vote like him and make it 3 times that. So he asked me to run and I didn't really think of running, but then I thought, what an honor to be asked to run and let's just give it a try.
Right.
So here I
Right. I think you're
yeah.
going to do great. You've been active in your community, and you know the issues I'm sure that everybody's having. Um,
Mhm.
and is the Republican Party in New Hampshire a pro Trump Republican Party, or
It
what is it
depends on
like
who
there?
you ask.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. New Hampshire's always been very Republican, very conservative, but unfortunately, all the states around us are very liberal, as you would
Right.
say. Some people might say even as far as communist.
Right.
So Maine is a lot of rural area, but a lot of people have moved to that state to change it. And so that's happening to New Hampshire. So a lot of people come. our motto's called "Live Free or Die." And a lot of people come to our state because they think it's supposedly the freest state in the nation, but as far as being, we have a lot of Trump supporters. There are Trump signs everywhere.
Nice.
But it is a little bit of it's not a shoe-in by any means. Like, we have to work hard and we have to get people off the couches
Yeah.
and beg people to vote. Like, you might think it's a lost cause, but we need your vote. And so we have been going door to door. So a lot of patriots are going door to door.
Good.
In years past, it's been kind of, you could sit back and just get reelected as a state rep, but we're challenging a lot of people who have been in their seat for a really long time. And the
Good.
state house with 400 representatives is almost half and half. So every single conservative vote counts.
Yeah.
Like, it could be the difference between um, libraries giving out information of your children to their parents or not,
Yeah.
or schools keeping secrets from their parents. Or in New Hampshire, we also have no sales tax. So our property tax is through the roof, but right
They
now
make up for it.
we don't have sales tax, and we don't have income tax right now for the state.
Right.
So that's a battle to try and keep that the way it is. It's kind of
Yeah.
like our privilege, one of the privileges of living here. So those are two really big things, and parental rights, keeping taxes down, and we also are very big to a state. So people do want to keep freedom for their own defense. So
Right.
that's one of the big issues as well.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, and so when is your primary? When is that coming? It's coming
That
up,
is
right?
coming up Tuesday, September 10th. Yeah, and I live in a kind of a small town. We only have about 10,000 people. So it's a little bit like Mayberry RFD. So whenever I finally woke up, started going to board meetings, I would see the same people regularly. And so I'm kind of a new person, but now I'm an old person. Now, when I show up at a meeting, they pretty much expect that I'm going to ask a question or do a public comment of some sort. Sometimes I just try on the spot, will make something up so that I can go to the table and say something. And
Nice.
that's kind of like, I force myself to do that because I figure maybe someday there'll be something bigger I need to talk about. And I don't want that to be the first time that I've spoken in front of strangers, or
Right.
it be intimidated by the people that have been at the state house forever. So yeah, so that's kind of what I do. And I kind of encourage other people,
That's
ask
wonderful.
a question, any question, like, just
Yeah.
make something up. Or you could even compliment them. Like, sometimes I'll say, I really appreciate the good job you did on such and such a thing,
Right.
because you don't want to always just go and complain.
Yeah.
So those are my things that I try to, my desire is to kind of inspire others to get involved in your own we're supposed to be the boss. Like, people kept saying, we're the boss, we're the boss. I'm like, if I'm the boss, I don't know what I'm doing. So I try to tell people, they're work for us, but we need
Yeah.
to know what they're supposed to be doing so that we can hold them accountable. And if
Exactly.
we don't know, then we don't have anything to stand on.
Yep.
So those are my things. And it's just all kind of been a whirlwind. I didn't really expect to be doing this, but I figured
Hey,
I would just give it a try.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Doors will be opened, sometimes that you least expect it. And, it's our duty to answer the call when it is,
Right.
we want our country to get back to being free, and the American dream. We want the American dream back. We want our communities safe. We want our children safe. We want smaller government as a
Right. But
whole.
smaller government, sorry to interrupt.
It's no, go ahead.
Smaller, okay. Smaller government means they're going to do less, but that means we need to do more. Like
Right.
we need to be the responsible ones. So
That's
when
right.
parents, I want parents to have the rights, but that means the parents need to take charge of their children and
Yep.
they need to understand it's their responsibility to take care of their children. If you don't take care of your children, somebody else will.
Right.
So it's, kind of a two-edged sword. It's not just, there are a lot of good people that aren't. As a matter of fact, I talked to a person today and he was very discouraged with the schools, and he actually took his son out of school and he's 15 years old. He's like, what am I going to do? Now I'm responsible for my child's education.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need to do, is
Yeah.
feel that responsibility. Because, if we want them to turn out okay, it's our job as parents. And if you
Yeah.
send them to school and they're not doing a good job, then you either find another school or find them a tutor, find them someone else that can help you. It doesn't have to
Right.
be necessarily you, but
Right.
there might be, in America, there are other ways to educate your children. And you can
Absolutely.
be creative on that.
Yep. And that gets us back to, communities need to come together more again. Know your neighbors, know
Exactly.
your community. You live in a smaller town, it
Yeah,
may be a
that's
little
what
bit.
that's what we
Yeah.
did. Like for me, it was like in 2020, what about, how do I garden? If I want to garden, and who am I going to give the food to? Like maybe
Right.
myself and my neighbor. And so that's exactly what got me going started, was
Yep.
I don't really know my neighbors. in
Right.
in New Hampshire, I mean, it's kind of a joke, but we'll walk down the street and we will just like not talk to
Everybody.
anyone. It's kind of the Yankee way, and I'm comfortable with it. But then I'm like, I shouldn't be though, should I?
We all need to come
So
together more as
yeah,
Americans and help each other.
right.
And I think one thing that it's being talked about a lot lately is unity.
Hmm.
And you don't have to agree on every little thing, but you do have to get along, and we do need to support each other and talk
Hmm.
more. I mean, we stopped talking somewhere
That's
in
right.
our past, and
Yeah.
societies can't grow like that. Not healthy, being healthy at least. So
And that's kind of what I heard. I heard that from President Trump,
yeah.
honestly, is, he can't do everything. He doesn't do everything. He knows how to delegate. He knows how to grow his like his surrounding people. He knows who to
Right.
tell what to do. And then he tells us, to do our part in our
Right.
community. And
Amen.
I don't want to do everything. I
Right.
want other people to step up, and I want to do it together. I don't want to be the
It's
only one. I'm
amazing.
not trying to be president or anything. I'm
Right. Well, and that's how it's supposed to work, because you're going to represent the people,
right.
that are sending you to office, and that's what our leaders need to do. And
Right.
President Trump is good at that. I mean,
Right.
he surrounds himself with people who are good at each of their individual things, and he listens to the people. And
Right.
that's what a strong leader does. And
And a good leader will, like, this is what this guy Mike did.
mhm,
Like he said, "Okay, I want to have a stronger vote. Some of the other people aren't voting the conservative vote. So
right,
what are my choices?" And he sat back, he figured it out, and we all work together. We all have a part in this whole thing. We've all gone out, knocked on doors. We've all, gone out and visited the people. We each have our own friends. And we all have grown to appreciate each other. And so that's what we need, and we need to grow that, like multiply that effort as well. And I was going to comment about the election. Like sometimes people elect people say a state representative. I'm going to
Mhm.
elect this person to work for me. And then I'm going to sit back and I'm going to, you know, do my own thing.
Right.
The truth is we can represent the people, but we need to know what the people want. We need the people to
Speak
do
up.
their part as well.
Yeah.
Yes. And like for me, if I'm not going to be school board anymore, I need someone else to take that seat.
Right.
And so we have to still fill in the gaps, not just vote for, we're not voting for a dictator.
Right.
We're voting for someone to represent us, which means we have to be involved in the process.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that's how our Constitution is written. And that's
exactly.
how it's supposed to be. So I
Right.
am so excited for you. I think you're going to be amazing. Everybody there in New Hampshire, please, 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 Tuesday, get out and vote
Yeah.
for Cindy and the other
Yeah.
two people, by the way.
Yeah.
At the bottom here, Cindy has a Facebook page. It's Cindy Bennett for State Rep Raymond on Facebook. And please go to RaymondRepublicans.com. You can find her there as well. And here shortly, I will be dropping a link in the chat for everybody. It's a give, send, go. Cindy is absolutely grassroots. So please, please support
Absolutely.
her. Yes.
Yeah, people
Please
think
support her.
that we get all this money and, you know, I've had to put money in every single time I've run for something.
Yeah.
I've had to put my own money in. I've never had enough money for someone else to pay for everything. So
Yeah.
at this point, I'm in debt right now.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So if you have a few dollars, that would be
Yes.
great. I could reimburse myself.
Right.
But this is how much, you know, people are committed to this type of thing. It's not, I will run if I get this much money or if I
Right.
get this much support. It's, I'm going to run and I'm going to just give it all I've got. I'm going to give it my time, my effort, my, you know, my soul,
Your heart and
everything
soul.
I have.
Yeah.
So, and that's what that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So,
And it shouldn't have to be something that takes away from your family as far as, finances go. That's not how this was all designed to be.
no,
This is
not really.
designed to be grassroots. We all need to
Mhm.
support each other. And absolutely, I mean, every
And
little
ask
penny
me
counts.
how much a state representative makes
How
in New
much?
Hampshire. I don't know if it's different in other states.
Uh,
My friend Kelly Tag here she's a teacher friend and she loves politics. And in New Hampshire, we get $100 per year to be a state representative. Yeah,
what?
$100. That's it. I heard you get a parking. Oh, I heard you'd also get a license plate that says state representative on it. I think you get that.
Oh, that needs to change.
Yeah, I think you might get. I heard some rumblings that they give you a free easy pass, so you don't have to pay the toll when you go up. But I think that's about it.
Wow. Well, God bless
Yeah,
you,
so
Cindy.
it's definitely
Seriously.
a service. It's a
Yes.
service to your community. It's
Yeah.
not any Kelly says 100,000 in California.
Yeah.
That's probably not much in California though.
Right. But still, it's better than
California, that's kind of like
$100.
$100.
Yeah. It's probably better though than $100 and a license plate.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yes, you guys, please, everybody, whether you're in New Hampshire or not, if you can support Cindy, please do. Because one thing I haven't, real quick before we have to go, one thing I haven't mentioned is tell everybody how many kids you have.
oh, yes. I have 13 children. Yep. 13 children. My youngest is 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's almost got his driver's license. He's halfway through the
Yay.
process. So yeah. So it's kind of exciting times for me because I do have more freedom, right?
Right.
But it's also sad, you know,
Yeah.
'cause
Empty
I wish
nest kind of
people
thing.
left
I
wife with
remember.
little kids. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we're channeling that energy. And the other thing is that's one thing that I really got to me was after all the work I did raising children, and then 2020 happened and everybody was like, locked up, and it just
Yeah.
broke me. It totally broke me.
It
And
did
I
a
was
lot of
like, my
people.
kids have to live in this
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the other thing that got me motivated to do my
Good.
part and give it everything I've got. Yeah.
Good. Well, I think you are absolutely amazing. I love you. I think you're gonna rock it there. And sorry about that. I think you're gonna rock it there in New Hampshire. And I will continue to put out your information. We'll put it on the APNX as well.
Oh, thank
So
you.
hopefully we can get, help get you some help there to reimburse yourself. Because even though your kids, he may be 16 and they're older, it doesn't matter. They get more expensive as they get
They do,
older.
they do. My kids are very hard workers, and they all are amazing people, and I'm very proud of them. Not for myself, but just because they have had to work. They've,
Yeah.
helped me along the years, and I want them to have the goodness that America brings, that can bring to their lives, not
Yeah.
disaster. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
You're such a strong, great, I think, role model for so many patriots out there. So any of you guys out there thinking about, wanting to run, if Cindy can do it, guess
That's
what?
right.
You
That's
know,
right. Anybody can do it.
I mean,
It's true.
she's just amazing. She's raised 13 amazing children. And now and that's a service in itself. And now
Mhm.
she's going to
Yeah.
serve the people of New Hampshire. So I think you're going to do great. You're in
Thank you
our
so much,
prayers as
Lisa.
well.
Thank you for having
Absolutely.
me. I feel honored, believe me.
No,
And
we are honored.
if I don't get elected, that's okay because I have plans. I'm not going to just go back and cower.
Amen.
I have a plan
Amen. Never
B.
give up.
Never
Never
give up.
surrender,
That's right.
never give up.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, Cindy, and we'll have
Thank
you back
you.
too because
Oh, thank you so much.
I want to see how
We
it
could probably
goes.
talk all day.
Absolutely. But
All
we'll
right.
have
Well,
you
it's good
back.
to
So
see
thank
you.
you so much. And again, I'll keep Cindy's stuff scrolling here for a while on the bottom. And Cindy, I'm definitely going to help try to do a little bit of fundraising for you. So we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. Have
Bye
a
bye.
great night.
All right, guys. So I hope you can see why I wanted Cindy to come on. She is an amazing person. To be able, we have 6 kids, but I mean she's raised 13 amazing children. And now you heard, I mean, she's not getting into it to make a lot of money. $100, woo. So yeah, it's an honor to have her. Right now I am, just so you know, I am watching for them to go live. I have not seen anything come up yet. So bear with me, because what I want to do is I want to play. I started playing it earlier with JD Vance. Trump spoke today, and I want to go ahead and put him up for any of those that didn't hear him speak today, because I think a lot of the points that he brought up were really good, and he was talking about the economy, and he took questions, and it was really interesting. Just one second here. They don't make it easy to find information. But here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up for you guys, because like I said, I think there was some really interesting stuff. Second, fast forward it so you don't have to listen to everybody else either. But again, in the chat, Cindy's Give Send Go here shortly, and I'll keep an eye out when when everything goes live, and I'll switch it. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy President Trump speaking today. Just 1 second. All right, here we go. Oops. And
today will be the president will address our club for about 30 minutes and then take questions, 4 questions from club members. Mr. President, thank you for being here and welcome.
Well, thank you very much. They actually told me you could speak for an hour and a half. So 30 minutes. He didn't like the way I looked, I guess. But we do have a lot to say, and I want to thank you, Bob. I also want to thank friends and respected business leaders for welcoming me back to the storied New York Economic Club. Storied indeed. A very special thanks to Barbara Van Allen. Barbara, thank you very much. And former director of the National Economic Council, Larry Kudlow. What a job he's done. Former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Kevin Hassett. Ambassador Robert Lighthizer, terrific person. Former Secretary Wilbur Ross. Former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton. Ambassador Woody Johnson. Senior Advisor Stephen Miller. My friends and respected business leaders all, John Paulson, Jamie Dimon, Steve Whitcup, Steve Schwarzman, Scott Bassett, Jeff Franklin, Richard Kurtz, former head of the World Bank, David Malpass, and the 2 co-chairs of my presidential transition team that are being inundated with phone calls and requests, Linda McMahon and Howard Lutnick. Thank you. As we gather today, we have an economic disaster on our hands. An economy in crisis, a failing nation, a nation in serious decline, under the radical policies of my former opponent, Joe Biden, and my new opponent, Kamala Harris. 1.3 million workers have become unemployed in the past 12 months. I don't know if anybody knows that. The typical American family has lost over $28,000 due to rampant and record-setting inflation. Credit card debt has reached the highest in history, with more than 1 in 3 Americans reporting they have maxed out their credit cards. They've maxed out. Families now need to earn an estimated $110,000 a year to afford a typical home, meaning 65% of households are locked out of buying just an ordinary house. Gasoline prices, grocery prices, electricity prices, mortgage rates, and virtually everything else are up 30 to 100% since I left office. 8.4 million Americans are now working second jobs, the highest in more than 30 years. The real wages of African American workers are down by over 6% in a short period of time. The real incomes from Hispanic men are down 6.6% or $3,600 per year. And on top of that, African Americans and Hispanic American jobs are under massive threat from the invasion taking place at the border. They're taking the jobs of Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and nobody talks about it. But I won't let it happen. Yet after presiding over the border, the worst in history for any country, there's never been a border like this. 21 million people, we project. This total economic catastrophe, the borders are, Kamala Harris has now been slotted in by the Democrats to be re-elected. She wants 4 more years to enforce a radical left agenda that poses a fundamental threat to the prosperity of every American family and America itself. We're talking about America itself. She wants to defund the police, have totally open borders, ban fracking in Pennsylvania and everywhere else, take away your private health insurance, and perhaps most pertinent to the very brilliant people in this room, raise your business and corporate taxes, and unbelievably, she will seek a tax on unrealized capital gains. Most people don't even know what that means. What does it mean? She's been after all of this for years, and as everyone knows, she's a Marxist who destroyed almost single-handedly San Francisco, and when she was the AG, California itself, not the same place. People believe in their flame like they are in New York. She'll seek out and she will try and get those things if she's elected, and she very will succeed in getting that. She recently said her values have not changed, and these have really been her values for her entire career. Her values haven't changed. That's what she wants. So she told the truth. We're not going to let this happen. Communism is the past, freedom is the future. And it is time to send Comrade Kamala Harris back home to California, where crime is rampant and fleeing is the #1 occupation. I'm here today to lay out my plan to rescue our country from this nightmare and to bring back to its citizens the American dream, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. 8 years ago, I came before you as a candidate for president and shared my vision to end this stagnation and return to rapid growth. That's what we did. As president, I am very proud to say that we accomplished something that nobody thought that was even possible. Before the pandemic, real median household income rose by $7,684. And even after the pandemic, annual incomes were up $6,400.
And my last words before I kick it off to these great panelists that we have here and moderators, all part of the team that are here supporting President Trump. Tonight's focus is going to be, for our panel tonight, is going to be on the economy. And of course, many of you probably saw the news today, but very significant, very incredible speech that President Trump delivered today to the Economic Club in New York. It's been super well received. If there's I guess we have one PhD on the panel, but I think anybody that's seen this thing would have given it an A++. I had an opportunity this afternoon on Fox News. They asked my reaction, and I said, I think President Trump just won the election today with his speech. The contrast on taxes, regulation, the border, which of course affects our economy, energy production, and how energy production is tied to national security and the proxy wars going right now. He covered it all. He nailed it all today. And I said the contrast, incredible contrast between what Kamala Harris is proposing and what President Trump is. We'll talk about that tonight. I'm sure you've got questions in here, but I just wanted to pass on. I had an opportunity to talk to President Trump just about 90 minutes ago, and obviously he was very excited that the four of us were all here in Wisconsin meeting with all of you. He wanted me personally to say hi to all of you tonight. He wanted to pass on that thing. He said, we've got to win Milwaukee. We got to win this county. Tell everybody thank you for being here tonight. So that's direct from President Trump. And of course, today, and he said to me, he said, well, he said, I wrote that myself. And he did. I mean, he wrote and rewrote this thing. He worked on it. He's put some real teeth in the thing. It was a fantastic speech. And again, that's a contrast right there, because we know that when Kamala Harris is giving an economic speech. We know that was written by someone else. I think she's got another one coming up on Monday, which is written by Obama's advisors. And so, but we've got someone that has actually worked in the private sector as President Trump, created jobs, served as our president, delivered a fantastic economy. When he says he's going to cut regulations, cut taxes, and hit pro-growth and drive energy, you can believe him, because that's what he did the first time around when he was in this thing. And so anyway, yeah, go ahead. Thank you for that. But to kick it off, as I said, we're just going to have a little discussion among ourselves, but we're going to have each of these folks here. But Governor, what an incredible career you've had, and you know the state better than probably anyone. You've served it longer,
every community in the state.
and you've been in politics long enough to know you need to use that mic closer to your. That's although the people in the front row heard you. He said he's walked in every community in this state. I mean, why you're here, why you're supporting President Trump, and why is it important for Wisconsin that he gets back in the White House?
The only reason I'm here is because I've been looking for a long time to find somebody that was born and grew up in a smaller community than my own Elroy. And you grew up in Arthur, only 310 population. Elroy's 1,500. I had to come and see a real politician that did well from a small community. That's why I'm here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great evening.
The 1,500 is tough, because we were down the road. There was a town that had 1,500 people, and they were our arch rival and everything, because they were 5 times bigger than us. But my senior year, we did beat them in basketball and at football, so I finished strong against
well, if I
Castleton
remember correctly, you tried to play basketball here and broke your leg.
It was actually I ruptured my Achilles actually, but it was worth it. I got a chance to play at Marquette for about 45 minutes before I.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is really an important evening. First off, thank all of you for coming. You love Wisconsin like I love Wisconsin. You love America. And this is the most important election any of us have ever been involved. I thought my elections were the most important. This is the most important election. We have got to save this nation. 68% of the people in this country believe we're going in the wrong direction. Don't you think it's time for a change? Economically, isn't it amazing that Democrats, every time they run like Republicans. They get conservative right before the election. Can you imagine Kamala Harris is talking about fracking now? Cutting taxes? Not being a socialist? The question is, do you believe somebody like Donald Trump that's believed this, worked it, fought for it, to build this country, build his businesses? Or do you believe somebody like Kamala Harris that's changed her position 8 weeks ago? I want to go with the real thing. I don't want to go with the imposter. I want to go with Donald Trump, and we will carry Wisconsin if we all do our job, ladies and gentlemen. We carry Wisconsin, and if we carry Wisconsin, we win the presidency. That's how important Wisconsin is. So let's do it.
That's what we're talking about.
That is a tough act to follow, Governor. I don't know how I pulled the short straw to come after you. I'm here tonight. First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be back in your fair city and your beautiful state. We were here 6 weeks ago for the Republican National Convention. I love the city. I love the state. I love your cheese curds, which I had some at the hotel this afternoon, and I have to have you send me some by the bag. But it is an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you. Thank you for caring enough about the future of your country to be here tonight on a Thursday afternoon in early September. It means the world to all of us that you've come out to hear us, but it means even more to your fellow Americans that you care enough to be here tonight. I am here because I am somewhat famously Donald Trump's very first non-family supporter, literally June of 2015, when he came down that escalator and he made that first speech. 2 or 3 nights later, I was on with Bill O'Reilly, and everybody was having a hearty laugh about Trump, and this is a vanity run, and he's going to last 2 weeks, and then he's going to be out, and it's for The Apprentice, and so on. And I remember looking at O'Reilly live on TV, and I said, stop laughing. Do not underestimate him. He is going to pull the whole thing off. And to this day, people say to me, what is it that you saw in him in those first days? And the answer is that the Republican Party was different by the time he came to us in 2015. The country was different after 8 years of Obama-Biden, destroying the U.S. economy, making America much, much weaker. And I saw that there was a real hunger for an outsider who could truly be a disruptor. And what Donald Trump did in 2015 was he looked at all of us here today and all of our fellow Americans, the forgotten men and women who have been screwed over by globalism, by exporting our jobs overseas, particularly to China, for decades. And it wasn't just the Democrats, it was the Republican establishment as well. The duopoly, the uni-party in Washington, D.C. And because of them, he stood out as the singular figure who could take both parties on and stand for all of us and fight for all of us. And so in 2016, we all took a leap of faith because Donald Trump had never done any of this before, right? He came out of nowhere, blue-collar billionaire, real estate guy in New York, where I'm from. Pray for me, by the way. Congressman Steil has a great district here in Wisconsin. My congressman is Jerry Nadler. I know, this is what I mean. Pray for me, okay? But we all took a leap of faith electing Donald Trump, that he would actually not be a traditional politician and BS his way through governing and serve the uni party and serve the globalists, but serve us. And you know what? He did. He delivered for the forgotten men and women by delivering a booming economy through a pro-growth economic agenda, which we're going to talk about here today. He did it by delivering an enforced border. He delivered it by delivering law and order. And he delivered it by delivering world peace. I don't know what anymore anybody expects or wants from an American president than those 4 things. He did it once, he's going to do it again. And I know of no stronger leader on the economy or any of these other issues than Donald Trump, certainly not in my lifetime and probably never in American history.
Thank you, Monica. So well said. Thank you, and thank you for being an early believer. We've got that on. We've got it on tape. We know that it happened, just as you said. Congressman, so great to be here in your state. Thank you for all of your service. Thanks for being here tonight. We know you've got an election coming up this fall as well. We think it's safely in hand. But tell us a little bit about, again, your thoughts on why Trump matters for your district.
Governor Monica, welcome back to Wisconsin. We have an opportunity to get our country back on track. And there are 2 key policies to do that. It's to bring down inflation, it's to secure the border. And I think a lot about a young couple who I met in Kenosha, Wisconsin last week, who was talking to me about how they are struggling to get out from being able to pay the rent to paying a mortgage. And I want to come back to that in a second. I also remember a woman that I'll never forget who lost her daughter to fentanyl. That was a gut-wrenching conversation. And that's a drug that we all know is designed in China, produced in Mexico, trafficked across the border into the United States of America, and is killing people right here in our state of Wisconsin and across the country in numbers that are really unimaginable. In Kenosha County alone, just down the road from here, was over 40 fentanyl-related overdose deaths. In Milwaukee County, where we are today, over 500 fentanyl-related overdose deaths last year. These are the results of bad policies by the Biden-Harris administration. They unleashed reckless inflation upon the American public under 2 years of Democratic one-party control when they unleashed spending. We know under President Trump, we can do the opposite. We can actually control inflation and raise wages. And he showed how to do that. To unwind what the Biden administration has done, we have to do, I think, 3 key things. You got to address the reckless spending that's come out of Washington. You have to bring down the regulatory burden, and you have to unleash American energy. The Biden administration has literally done the opposite on every single one of those. And we can return and get our country back on track so families like the young couple who I was chatting with has an opportunity to go from paying the rent to paying a mortgage once again. And on the border side, this administration has chosen to not secure the U.S.-Mexico border. President Trump showed that we can secure the U.S.-Mexico border. This administration on their own today, if they wanted to, could do 4 key things. They could reinstate stay in Mexico. They could end abuse of the parole system. They could stop, catch, and release, and they could restart border wall construction immediately. On day one of President Trump coming into office, he's going to do all 4. And the result of that is we will have a secure border, which has a huge impact to us here in the state of Wisconsin. So if I deciphered this down to 2 policies, it's inflation and illegal immigration, and President Trump is right on both of them.
Congressman, you mentioned that these are unthinkable and staggering numbers. It's hard to imagine, folks, but since Biden-Harris took office, we have lost now over 330,000 Americans to overdose deaths. And I don't want to call a fentanyl an overdose because in many cases, they don't even know they're taking fentanyl. These are accidental or intentional poisonings, depending on your view of where China plays in that. But we've lost 5 Vietnams worth of casualties. So it's not just the mass invasion; it's the mass casualties, and they're affecting every community, every business, every family in our country. It's like if you had an aircraft, commercial aircraft with 300 people a day that went down today, that would be the headline news. Tomorrow, if another airline went down and 300 people died, 300 Americans died, it would be headline. By the 3rd day or the 4th day, no one would be getting on a plane. We're losing over 300 Americans a day to these fentanyl overdose deaths. And the Biden administration is, as you said, Harris administration, they could be doing something about it now, and they're not. So thank you, Congressman, for focusing on that. It's a great kickoff. I think we're going to do is get right into it now with all of you. You're here. We've got in this magic fishbowl, we have a set of questions, and I'm randomly pulling one out here, and we're going to go. And then depending on who wants, it's each like jump ball. You guys can decide who wants to take this. This is first one is a good one. Our federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies have become politicized and corrupted. How could President Trump turn this around? And maybe I'm going to go back to you, Congressman, because Congress has taken we politicized a lot of things. President Trump, if we don't win the House and the Senate, and President Trump wins, I think the first thing that'll happen will be an impeachment trial for something, because that's just the way they're doing things right now. But this whole the whole taking over of not just our court system as well as the intelligence agencies, but maybe from Congress you've got a perspective, and then we'll go to Monica as well.
This is in large part the power of the purse, and this is about reining in the reckless spending of the Biden administration and actually putting the rule of law as the cornerstone of what we're doing when we're thinking about funding the government and holding these agencies accountable. Accountability has been lacking in this government, and in particular, it's been lacking under the Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, the weaponization of government to me, and we face a lot of very serious threats, external threats. China is certainly an existential threat. Iran with a nuclear weapon, the Russians, terrorist organizations. But the enemy within this weaponized government, to me, is the most dangerous and existential threat we face, because we know how to deal with our external enemies when we have the political will to take them on. But when the enemy is within, and it's our own government and these 3-letter agencies that have gone completely rogue, and not just under Biden-Harris, but this has been going on for a long time. The hard leftists have been talking about for decades the long march through the institutions. They've had their eyes on this prize of knocking over the United States for a very long time. And this is why now we're at this tipping point, because it's been going on for so long. This is their end game. And that's why all of these events seem very accelerated. Weaponized government, and I've asked President Trump about this as well. He recognizes the danger. There is a debate about whether some of these institutions, say the FBI, can be reformed, or is the corruption so deep that you have to raise the institution to the ground and start all over again? That's a debate for President Trump when he is reelected. but he has the will to go and do what needs to be done to uproot all of this. And just one little anecdote, which I think you'll all appreciate. My very first job was with former President Richard Nixon, not when he was president. I was not born when he was elected. But in the last 4 years of his life, I worked with him. And he shared a story about Democrat Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan out of New York. They were very good friends back when, you know, bipartisan friendship were possible, and they were both intellectuals. So they used to share books and articles and spend hours on the phone. When Richard Nixon was elected president in 1968, and he was coming into office, Moynihan called him and he said, "Mr. President, my greatest piece of advice to you is that you need to uproot the executive branch and reform it completely. And that kind of reform needs to happen once every generation, because if we don't do that, this kind of entrenched corruption will get so deep, it will take the entire country off the rails and head us into a tyrannical kind of situation." Guess what? This is where we are, because that kind of reform has not happened since the end of World War II, when we had that first big reform of the executive branch. So this has been rolling for like 70, 80 years. So President Trump is definitely going to have his work cut out for him. It's going to take a lot of courage, a lot of political will, a lot of support from Congress and from the states as well, because as strong as he is, he's only one man. He's going to need all of us to back him up as he takes this huge leviathan of the US government and the corruption that has been so deeply entrenched for decades, taking that on and restoring the power back to us. Donald Trump began to do it in the first term, and he's going to do it again. And he's going to finish the job this time.
Governor.
One of the first things you learn going into law school is that we're a country of laws, not of men. We're a country of laws. We've lost that. Congress has lost it. And when I was governor, and when President Nixon was president, and when John F. Kennedy was president, Democrats and Republicans took each other to task when they overstepped the boundary. We don't have that anymore. Nobody ever quite. This is lawful. They just do it. And the second thing we've lost in our country is called honesty. You can say anything about anybody and do anything, and nobody questions it. And to try and disprove a lie is almost impossible. And so what we have to do is what President Trump tried to do, and now is going to do it. His last term, he has nothing to lose. He is going to drain the swamp, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to bring back honesty and integrity, and he is going to get the Democrats and Republicans to sit down and say, we are a country of laws. This is the Constitution, and we're going to adhere to it, and we are going to do what is right for the people of Wisconsin, even North Dakota, and America.
Fantastic answers. The forever a purple state. I've heard that it will probably never turn red like Ohio has. Is that true, and why? And I guess I'm going to go to the two Wisconsinites.
Don't come to the New Yorker on that one.
Wisconsin was a red state. The Republican Party was born in the state of Wisconsin.
Who used to live in Ripon?
You know, there was something about you I liked. You must have been a great American. And the Republican Party we lost our way. We lost our way when Dick Nixon got impeached. The Democrats took over both houses of the legislature. They gerrymandered the state, and they made sure that the Democrats were able to be elected. I got elected, and for the first time, I had Democrats in control of both houses when I was governor. I sat them down and we talked. But over the years, we were able to show progress, pass good laws, good initiatives, and the people responded. And we started turning the state into a red state. And now we've fallen back. We have got to get the truth out there. We've got to be able to tell people, do you want the real thing or the fake thing? Do you want to close the borders? You vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans. If you want to get inflation down, you vote for Donald Trump. I wish Ronald Reagan was back too. And Republicans. If you want to be able to get energy down, just think of this, ladies and gentlemen. Very simple. Very simple this. And that is two things. Executive orders by President Biden and Kamala Harris the first week in office. They opened up the border. They closed down the Keystone Pipeline. Remember that? And what happened? The border opened up. Fentanyl came in. We got illegal people coming in from all over. Energy prices went up. The first week, and they've had 3 years and 9 months to change it. They haven't done a damn thing, ladies and gentlemen. Not a damn thing. And the first week that Donald Trump is back, those executive orders are gone. We close the border and we get energy prices back and we drill. That is the Republican way. And that will change Wisconsin. That will change the country. We're going to show the people of Wisconsin and America that the Republican way is the right way, and we will become a red state again, and we'll make and once again, we're going to rebuild.
I think we're all getting a glimpse here of another piece of history, because in 1986, when Tommy Thompson ran for governor, you were the only Republican governor in the country that beat a sitting Democrat that year in the entire country. And that's today is very rare to beat an incumbent, but congratulations, sir, for bringing that. Congressman?
Let me add something to this, because I think we are a Republican state, and I think we have to turn out the votes to make sure that we elect Republicans. So what do I mean by this? If you travel around the state of Wisconsin, so many people are negatively impacted by the policies of the Biden-Harris administration by Democrats in the state of Wisconsin. And when you go and actually speak to these individuals, they like the policies of the Republican Party. It's why if you went on and looked at Harris's website, there's no policies. It's why she doesn't do press interviews, because she doesn't want to talk about the policies that she wants to implement in this country. And so if we as conservatives and as Republicans go and speak to people that may have historically voted for Democrats and talk about the policies that impact them, from the border to inflation to school choice in Racine, Wisconsin, we have an opportunity to bring those people who are frustrated with the impact of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration and bring them into the fold. The second thing we need to do in the state of Wisconsin as conservatives and Republicans is show up and vote. And what we have seen is Democrats in cities like Madison, Wisconsin show up at high voter turnout numbers. Fine. That means we have to step up to the plate and turn out in even larger numbers. And so there are people in our state, and myself included sometimes, I don't love every election law that is on the books. But what I like less is losing. And so if you want to win in the state of Wisconsin, we have to use the tools in the toolkit to get the vote out. And we called it vote early or bank the vote, and President Trump rebranded it into swamp the vote. What we have to do is leverage the tools in the toolkit to get the vote out in Wisconsin. Because what we have shown time and again is when we turn out, we win. When conservatives and Republicans stay home, we lose. And this election in the state of Wisconsin is going to come down to turnout. And we have the opportunity to go and knock doors, talk to our friends and neighbors, talk to people at work, at church, to make sure that every single Republican, every single conservative, every single supporter of President Trump votes in this election.
Can I just make one little point on this? And this applies to Wisconsin as well as every other state in the union. We have so many fellow Americans who don't connect their vote to the consequences of their vote. And we just saw that, right? I mean, I think this is a pretty profound point. It's obvious, but nobody ever really states it. We all scratch our heads. Why are people voting this way? For example, in Chicago, neighboring city here, they were fed up with Lori Lightfoot as mayor, so they bounced her. And then they turned around and voted in someone worse, like a straight up Marxist. My parents, my grandparents, they were Roosevelt Democrats, and I'm culturally a Democrat, but I can't stand the way my city is run, or I can't stand the way my state is run, but they continue to vote the same way. So this picks up on your point and your point too, Governor, which is it's going to take all of us to educate our fellow Americans here in Wisconsin, around the country. I don't do it in a particularly polite way because I feel like we have no time. We're 60 days away. I'm like, you got to understand the country is hanging by a thread. But I want to encourage all of you to try to educate your family members, your friends, your community, in your churches, your synagogues. Everybody around you needs to understand the stakes involved in this election. To the governor's early point, we always say this is the most important election. This one actually is, because what I talked about earlier, that they are, the hard leftists are in their end game for the country. And so literally, if we don't get this right on November 5th and leading up to November 5th, the country is gone. The country, it will still physically exist, but all of the rights and freedoms and prosperity that we have long enjoyed, and certainly in President Trump's first term, all of that will be erased, never to be seen again. And he will have a one-party system in this country, which is what the no borders policy is about under Harris. It's not open borders, it's no borders. And the reason they are doing this is to erase the border, flood the country with potential and national security threats that those no border policies have brought all of us, but it's also to tip the country to a one-party state and a one-party system. So again, it will be done. So I just want to encourage all of you to understand, I know you all do, which is why you're here, but to understand that, yes, of course, this is about bringing President Trump back. So we got the extraordinarily successful policies of a robust, thriving, growing U.S. economy with little to no inflation and historically low unemployment rates for every demographic group. And we get that enforced border back. He basically had illegal immigration and the border solved. He solved the problem. We'll get that back. Law and order, rebuilding our cities, rebuilding our military, peace through strength abroad. All of those successes will come back. But his reelection is even bigger than what he is going to do in restoring America and reviving our economy in a second term. It is about setting America back on a trajectory of taking it out of the grip of the hard left that seeks to destroy it. That is what is at stake here in this election. And that's why we have to communicate that to everybody we know in every way possible.
Thank you, Monica. This is a question, and that is, I guess, we'll keep it focused on Wisconsin again here because, and it ties back in this. But how will the RNC, how will the Trump team, how will Republicans help with election integrity? This is a concern on everybody's mind. Congressman, you talked a little bit about Wisconsin voter laws. They vary by state. Now they vary by counties. Maybe talk a little bit about, because the RNC is talking about getting the vote out and then protecting the vote. How can we be confident that the vote's going to be protected here in Wisconsin?
So I chair the Committee on House Administration. It's the committee with broad oversight over federal election law. And I've spent a lot of time on election integrity and a lot of time talking with Chairman Whatley on this exact topic. A couple things at play. One, we still have an opportunity to pass the SAVE Act, which says that U.S. elections are for U.S. citizens only. Do you agree? That legislation needs to come forward in the Senate, and we need to pass that. That's essential. Two is working with Chairman Whatley and the RNC. What we need to do is have a robust operation on poll watching. We're building that out in the state of Wisconsin right now. He showed the model on how to do that in North Carolina, to have a team of poll watchers backed by a team of about 500 attorneys monitoring the polls, engaged to make sure that it's legal votes that are being counted. And if we do that, we have the opportunity to increase the integrity in this election, increase our confidence in the election. If we do that, I also think President Trump will win.
And I would just, yes, on that, I would just say we give an update on that with talking to Michael Watley last night, chairman of RNC. There are opportunities for volunteers who want to be poll watchers to get trained. There's 175,000 people that have raised their hand to the RNC that are going to thing, and they're particularly needed in these swing states and swing counties. And so, you know, think about the counties and the suburban counties around Madison and Milwaukee. We know there's still opportunities. We'll make sure that as a follow-up with the Trump team here, if there's people that do want to volunteer, I saw someone put a hand up. If you want to be poll watchers, get trained, come out. That's one way to help on that.
How many people in here have been election officials? And how many people have been poll watchers?
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you
Great
from the bottom of my heart. And the governor, the congressman, Monica, if we get more people involved, if we get more of you individuals, good citizens, hardworking, honest, integrity, to show up and watch the polls, we will do more for election integrity than anything else. And it's in our hands. If we want to change this election, and if we want to change this country, we got to do the extra work. And it's work, it's time consuming. And I saw a lot of hands go up. I would like to see every hand go up and say, we're going to be part of something big. Something's going to bring America back, and something's going to make Wisconsin the winning state to win the presidency of America.
I like the sound of that.
Can I just say, there are two organizations that are directly related to the Trump campaign, TrumpForce47.com. If you want to volunteer, TrumpForce47, and also ProtectTheVote.com. So please go check out those organizations to volunteer your time, your resources, and your expertise.
Very good. Thank you. Next one is a broader question here on again, on immigration, which we've touched on. But how do you see addressing the illegal immigration crisis in a meaningful and realistic way? So many of them have temporary status. And I'll just kick off before you guys go into the answer side, but I'll tell you, as the governor knows, one of the great honors of being governor of state is you're also the chairman of your National Guard. And in North Dakota, we've had National Guard troops deployed at the southern border almost the entire time of the Biden-Harris been in office. Thank you. And of course, we've got Kamala, the borders are, the open borders are, the no borders are, however you want to describe it. But it's interesting that she was put in that role when myself and many other Republican governors have been to the border many more times than the person who is in charge of it. And to be clear, as someone who's a conservative and a Republican, and I believe strongly in the 10th Amendment and states' rights, there's a limited set of things in the Constitution that the federal government is supposed to do. The rest is delegated to the states or to the people, to all of you. One of the few things that's delegated to the federal government is national security, which includes border security. So it is one of the, in a limited government, that is one of the jobs there's for government on 30 different initiatives from 3-digit agencies. And whether that's the EPA or a 4-digit one like U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, I mean, you name it. We're battling back where there's been federal overreach in all places there shouldn't, but then in a place where they're actually supposed to do the job, they're not. So then as states, whether it's Texas or North Dakota or many others, we've had troops down there. And I would tell you that every single day that's the most underreported story in the country. I mean, we hear about it, we talk about it, we see the big numbers, but when you're down there, on the border and you get to talk to your own troops that are doing the work. I mean, we sent a group down about 18 months ago and they were given a 30-mile stretch in Texas. And I went down there 30 days later to meet with them. And I said, how's it going? And they said, well, we've apprehended 1,000 people a day for the first 30 days. in a 30-mile stretch. And you'll never see that story. But these are North Dakota National Guard people that have got other jobs. They're volunteers. You served in the reserve, the National Guard. You understand what that means. But these are citizen soldiers down there doing the job. And I said, where's the Border Patrol? I mean, because there's nobody out there. I was out there on the border, and it was only North Dakota National Guard. Where's the Border Patrol? Oh, well, they're back processing people. Well, they're processing people. And when they're processing work, and so then they're processing because they'd been directed that they wanted to make sure they piled up where someone could take a picture of a border camp. So their directions were get them out into the U.S. as fast as you can. So if our guys brought in 1,000 a day and there was a couple there from yesterday and the day before, there's 3,000 people. Their job was to make sure the 3,000 people didn't group that was coming the next day. That's how you end up with 10 million people coming into our country, is you're just trying to process them as fast as you possibly can. So then I talked to the career people that were that work in the Border Patrol, and these are families that have grown up along the borders, and like many families whose families have a tradition in law enforcement or in the military, they're multi-generational families. The grandfather served proudly in law enforcement on the Border Patrol. The father served on it. These folks said to me, we would never tell our children ever to go into the Americans, and we wanted to make sure that our border was secure. And now all we're doing is processing people illegally into the country. So when they talk about trying to blame the Republicans because they won't pass a bill for more funding, there are thousands and thousands of positions open that have already been funded by Congress that are unfilled. They don't need to pass a bill in Congress to go out and hire thousands of more Border Patrol, because that many people have quit. Just like in all the large blue cities where they've said defund the police, they've all lost police force. So this wasn't just like we've had an attack on our country. It's been an attack on law enforcement, and the whole defund the police effort that you heard about crept over into effectively defund the Border Patrol. So there are proud people in that organization that are not allowed to do their job. And so I just would tell you, from being down there with my own eyes, it's worse than is. And this is just another reason, which has all been said. President Trump has to win. And as the congressman said, there are things that Harris and Biden could be doing right now today to solve this problem. They're not. They're playing the blame game. But I'm telling you, our country depends on it, because of what's worse is when they're in it, and then some states are saying, oh, we want to give them benefits. We're going to give them education. We're going to give them health care. We're going to allow them to be on Social Security. We're challenged enough with these benefit programs. We will bankrupt this country if we think that anybody who enters this country illegally could start receiving benefits. And if they do, it'll be an incentive for even the next 10 million to come to the country. So it's broken at so many different levels. And President Trump has made a commitment. He's been very clear. He's been clear all along that he's going to secure the border on day one. He's got all the tools to get it done.
It's really amazing to me that they open up the border to get more illegals in. The ultimate objective is to have, as Monica said, to vote. They want to control our elections. They want to control the direction of our country. And this election, as all of us have said, is the most important one. Kamala says she's going to get tough on the border. She's never been there. She's a border czar. She's never been there. She could change, and President Biden could change everything tomorrow. An executive order. Don't need a law. They suspended what Donald Trump was going to do. Fentanyl, as the congressman has pointed out, has increased 97% in our country. And as the good governor said, 300 people a day are dying. And all we have to do is close the border, ladies and gentlemen, and do it legally. As I said, we're a country of laws. Let's allow legal immigrants to come into our country, because we're all immigrants, but let's do it the old-fashioned way. Let's be legal, and let's do it correctly. And let's stop the terrorists, the drug dealers, the individuals that are preying on kids and women, goodbye to them. We'll never do it with the Democrats in control. It's as simple as that. So if you really want to control the border, knock down illegal drugs, vote Republican, vote Trump, and we will win, and we will carry the message, and we will get this country turned around. And that is why all of us are here tonight. So let's do it, ladies and gentlemen.
And you know, you don't have to guess about what President Trump will do or how he's going to do it on the border and illegal immigration, because he did it for 4 years. Like I said, he had the problem essentially solved. He started construction of the border wall. He had Remain in Mexico. He had Title 42 when the pandemic hit in. He had asylum reform. He had a whole array of very successful policies that solved the problem. And when he comes in the second time, he's going to add to all of that mass deportations, which, by the way, has about 60 to 70% support among the American people. People of all ethnic groups, political parties, etc. They see the problem. They want these illegal aliens out of the country, and Donald Trump is the only one who can do it, and he will.
Congressman.
I'll add two quick things. One, having gone to the U.S.-Mexico border, I think, as all of us have done, it's worse than you think. If you watch TV and you in Wisconsin in the winter, sometimes they'll say, oh boy, big snowstorm, don't go outside. And you kind of go outside and you say, this isn't too bad. And you think, come on, it can't be as bad as the news is really saying. The border, it's the opposite. You think it's bad on TV, and then you show up, it is way worse what's going on at the U.S.-Mexico border than almost anybody fully understands and appreciates. And you don't fully appreciate it until you've been to the border and talked to the men and women of Border Patrol. The other side of this is we talked about the impact that the border is having here in Wisconsin as it relates to fentanyl. I think it's worth also talking about the impact that it has in a lot of our communities. The city of Whitewater, it's about 50 miles from here. 15,000 people, big city for you two governors. In the city of Whitewater, 15,000 people, the chief of police has noted there's approximately 1,000 migrants that have moved into the community of Whitewater. I think it's higher, but we'll go with 1,000. The impact that that is having on our first responders, our firefighters and our EMS can't be overstated. And the impact that that's having on school districts is significant. Roughly 200 students have been added into the school district of Whitewater, school district with approximately 2,000 students, about a 10% increase. And many of these young students come from Venezuela and Nicaragua, speak Spanish. They have a boy that should be in 5th grade, but has a 3rd grade education, speaks Spanish as their native language. It's a huge burden on the school district in a community like Whitewater. Whitewater is just one example of what's occurring in communities of smaller size all across our country. Our media likes to focus on New York City or Chicago or Denver. They often don't pay attention to the real and substantive impact the Biden-Harris policies are having on communities across the state of Wisconsin, large and small.
Yeah, and there's another related question here is how will you help secure all our borders? I say this is also as a large border state, North Dakota, we got 325 miles. One of the things that's also been unreported is when we had the not hiring down at the southern border, then Homeland Security's pulled people off the northern border, sent them to the southern border. Now about 10% of the folks that are infiltrating illegally are coming across the northern border. We had traditionally 18 border crossings in our state. Some of them have been closed since COVID. Some have got reduced hours. We've got agriculture producers that now have to drive, 120 miles to get to a soybean plant in Manitoba that's only 15 miles away because of closed and reduced hours. So it's affecting economically, but it's also, we've got people crossing the border that are on the northern border that's happening from New Hampshire to the state of Washington. So it's a trickling effect. The southern border is the biggest problem, but we have to focus on all of our borders. And the last thing I would say on the border too is the cartels. The cartels are so well funded. When you're down there I'm standing on the one side of the Rio Grande and with the people, and they're just pointing over, and there's the houses on the other side, and some of them have got 2 stories and nice, balconies and overlooks. And I'm like, wow, somebody's got some money over there. Well, that's a cartel house. That's a cartel house. There's people standing up there, and then they're sending people across while we're standing there. Well, they're sending people across because they've got to clear out their train of homes where they're where they're getting paid. The cartels make so much money on the human trafficking, shoving people across, and they take the dollars out of them. They do post-crossing interviews, and the average The average, what a person is paying that's crossing is basically whatever money they still have in their pocket. They have to hand it over before they cross over. So then they're penniless when they get to the U.S. Or else if they don't have money, then they say, hey, carry drugs across for us. But some of those cartels are making tens of millions of dollars in a week on these border crossings. And this is not, people, not all these people are coming through the Darien troops were. That was just this last year. There's people there that had coming from China that had left China 2 days before. They flew to Ecuador because you can fly there without a visa, and then from there you can fly without a visa to one of the major cities in Mexico to near the border, Mexicali, Tijuana, one of these cities. Scholars fly in there. And then you basically get an Uber. I mean, they get a guy with a Suburban. They put 15 people and they drive them to the gap in the wall. And there's people coming across from China with neck pillows and roller bags. They'd left China 2 days earlier. This is not some struggling Latin American family. These are people that had money and were coming across. Some were paying to do jet ski from Mexico passed up to San Diego, $5,000 for a jet ski ride to bypass the whole thing. Then you don't need to walk across the border. So just insane things that this is all, like I say, when it's being underreported, it's underreported. So we'll move on from the border topic, but a lot of good questions here tonight. One thing, I have a couple of questions here about younger voters. How's the Trump campaign doing to attract Gen Z voters? And what can we do to attract? What can the Republican Party do to get more young people involved? So this is the younger generation voter challenge, but I'll kick it out to all of you. And we got two people here who've won elections with a lot of young people supporting you. Congressman, when you're running now, and Tommy, when you were running, you had a great movement of young people supporting you and working for you. What are your thoughts?
Republicans have got to learn that they got to go places that's not safe for them. They got to go on the campuses and talk to the students. I get it. And you're amazing. The more you talk to students, the more they ask you questions and you convince them. You get them energized. Several of these young people here on the Trump team were college students in Wisconsin and now went on and liked what they heard with the Trump team and now are in the Trump team. We just got to do more of it. We got to go into the black churches as Republicans and talk to the individuals and go and talk to individuals that don't look like us sometimes and don't support us, but willing to listen. And we got to do that. And there are more young people out there that want to get involved, and we got to ask them. And how we do that, you just go to places where Republicans usually don't go, like Madison. I used to go, I carried Dane County. The only Republicans ever carried Dane County. Because I went to the campuses. I spoke to the young Republicans. I spoke to the young Democrats. Almost got thrown out, but I did. And you got to do that. And you know something? If we get 30% of the vote in Dane County, Governor, we win the election. If we get 40% of the vote in Milwaukee County, we win the election. I carried Milwaukee County twice when I was governor. It's easy. Not easy, but it can be done. If you're not afraid to go to places where Republicans aren't usually going, go there, talk to them. They're just like you and I. It's hard to make a living right now. It's hard to pay your rent. It's hard to buy your groceries. It's hard to raise your children. Go talk to them and say there's a better way. It's not the liberal, progressive, socialistic views of Biden and Harris. It's the Donald Trump thing that wants to drain the swamp, wants to give everybody a job, allow people to work, keep some of their money, lower their taxes instead of raise their taxes. Now you answer this question. Would you rather have lower taxes or higher taxes? I think lower taxes. Well, then you better vote Republican. Would you like to close the border? Would you like it open? Well, I think I'd like to close the border. Then you vote Republican. If you want inflation down, yeah, then vote Republican. It's not that difficult. Ask the people, what do they want? They want our agenda. We are the individuals that are driving this agenda, and Kamala is trying to copy it. Now, if you're going to go to the store, do you buy the real thing or do you buy the substitute? If you're going to go and buy something, you want the real thing. You want the authentic thing. That's the Republicans. That's the agenda. Let's do it. Let's win. And let's show everybody that there's a better way.
Congressman, young voters.
Let me build on what Governor Thompson just said. You got to show up and sell the policies. And President Trump is really good at that. He came with me to downtown Racine, Wisconsin, to go and talk to voters about what we need to do to get back on track. And he's traveling to areas that have historically voted for Democrats who are ready to hear a conservative message. As it relates to younger voters, let me give you two things, because showing up and going and speaking directly to students is absolutely essential. I'd focus on two topics. I'd talk to the students about freedom and liberty. And I would say, in particular, if you don't think your government can take away your freedoms and liberties, look back at what happened to students during COVID. In our nation's largest liberal cities, our school districts closed and prevented those students from having an opportunity to go and get an education. And far after almost everyone knew that it was safe for those students to go back to school, our biggest liberal cities and our biggest liberal school boards bought into the teachers union and refused to reopen those schools to the detriment of students. And talking about freedoms and liberties that we cherish in this country, that we are fighting for, that President Trump is fighting for, is something we have to talk more about to students. And the second piece is the Harris-Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, either way. They think that they can go and buy votes. And if you look at the student loan giveaway, there are some students who will allow themselves to sell out on the student loan giveaway. But if you go and talk to young people, those students that are working their way to be able to afford a school, those students that are living with their moms and dads to be able to cut down on the costs as they drive to campus, or those individuals that went and served in the United States military wearing the United States military uniform so they could get the GI benefit, or those students who went to become an electrician or a carpenter or a plumber. And we talk to them and say, oh yeah, by the way, that other guy over there, that other woman over there, they got a student loan giveaway by the Harris-Biden administration. If we talk to them about these policies, they know that we are right on the policies and that Biden and Harris are wrong on the policies. But we have to show up, talk to them, and those are the top two topics I talk about.
Yeah, you know, on just quickly on this issue, Governor, to your point about meeting people where they are, President Trump is so incredibly good at this. He went to the Bronx and drove, you know, thousands and thousands of people in the Bronx. He went to Harlem to that bodega and talked to Latinos and Dominicans in that area. He goes to construction sites. He was always more comfortable with the workers on his building sites than he was with the foremen. And that shows because he is one of us. He's not one of them. So he does meet people where they are. He did more for the African-American community as president than any other modern president. And in terms of young people, he's also doing an extraordinary job meeting them where they are. He's doing all these young, hip podcasts. Aiden Ross, but apparently is huge. He's doing he did my podcast last week, by the way. So if you're not listening to my podcast, you should, because he was on my show last week and actually broke the news about the SAVE Act. He announced on my show that he does support coming up next week, but he's doing all of these shows to reach all kinds of constituencies, younger voters, meeting them where they are. And the message here is to younger voters is about the American dream and how it is evaporating before our eyes. It is being stolen from all of us, but certainly from them. They will not be able to afford a house because interest rates are so high. And inflation is just eating up all of our incomes, all of our savings. They're not even going to be able to get off of square one from this administration. And another 4 years, forget it, they have no future. So President Trump, his campaign, J.D. Vance, all of us, we are out here talking to everybody, but certainly to younger voters to say, hey, if you want a positive American dream like we've all been able to enjoy up until this point, then you must vote for Trump Vance.
Well, I would just say on top of that, that's absolutely true, because the American dream has been killed by high interest rates and by inflation. And I think one of the questions, if you, it's as the governor encouraged all of you and Monica and the congressman to get out and talk to people, is there anything they buy today that costs less than it did when President Trump left office? Because I don't know what they're going to come up with on the answer to that, because, you know, electricity's up, gas is up, diesel's up, every type of food is up, some of it a lot. And this is so real incomes are down in America under Biden Harris. And then again, you know, President Trump, as we kicked off today laid out this incredible economic plan of less regulation, lower taxes, protecting the borders, all the things that drive economically forward, and particularly on energy, when he was talking about opening up the federal lands for development of energy. That, I mean, he was talking today about how, I mean, just President Trump, I'm telling you, President Trump gets elected, the price of gasoline will drop the next day. And why it'll drop? Because the futures market will reflect that there's going to be an increase in supply, because supply is being constrained by the Biden administration, by the rules and regulation. The market will react almost immediately on some of these things. It's not going to take them a long time. It's just like, hey, when he's in, we're going to have more supply. And the governor talked about on day one what they did, like canceling the Keystone XL. It's crazy to me. I mean, they called it the Keystone XL, but I've talked to the people that own that pipeline, and I said when they get a chance to reopen it, they should call it the U.S. National Security Pipeline. So when there's a protest, they could say there's another protest today at the U.S. National Security Pipeline, because that's part of what it is. Because we need energy security, and we've got to provide it for our allies. And what we've done with President Trump's energy policy is so correct and so on target, because it would mean that we'd be supplying energy to our allies, like in Western Europe. He's the guy that stopped the Nord Stream pipeline. So they killed the Keystone XL, Biden Harris, on day one, and then they allowed the Nord Stream 2 to go through. And allowing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to go through was like turning on a spigot of tens of billions of dollars for Putin, because what was running through that pipeline was Russian gas. That's what was going there. And that's what he's using to fund a war against Ukraine. And then the Biden Harris, they lifted the sanctions against Iran. And now Iran, you know, President Trump had Iran financially on their knees. He had them almost literally broke as a country. Now they're funding over 24 different terrorist organizations. They have over $100 billion on their balance sheet. You know, both Russia and Iran became the discount gas station for China. China's building up its strategic petroleum reserve. Countries do that when they're getting ready to fight a war like World War III. And then what did Biden do in the middle of his term, Biden Harris? They drained our strategic petroleum reserve in half to try to lower the price artificially at the pump. So their energy policies literally have hurt Americans. Every single day you're paying too much for your electricity and too much for your gas, too much for your diesel. And China was getting discount on theirs because they were getting cheap stuff that was coming from the adversaries that were using that to fund the two proxy wars against us. So it's like a crazy upside down, 100% wrong world on energy. And that's driven the inflation. When inflation goes up, interest rates go up, there goes the American dream, because you can't afford to buy a house. I mean, anybody in that generation, this is all going to get turned around under President Trump. As we draw to a close here, I just want to go back to the group and say if there's any closing comments you have. There were a number of questions that came through about interest rates, first-time home buyers, and others. There was one question about, what can we do about the fact that Harris refuses to interview for the most important job on the planet? It is a great question, because she is now a historic figure. She's a historic figure because no candidate has ever gotten this close to an election without having to do any interviews or
get a single vote.
Yeah, and either of those things. So, but to close out again, particularly on today when the focus for President Trump, like I said, he laid out today was a fantastic policy. The contrast with Harris, her thing a couple weeks ago was she talked about, the opportunity economy. I guess the opportunity is if you're a small business and you want to open up your business, then you have the opportunity to have her tell you what you can charge for what you're selling, because they're going to put in price controls. I mean, price controls on food. I mean, Venezuela put in price controls on food, and so there's cheap food in Venezuela. You know who's eating it? People in Ecuador and Peru, because the cartels take all the food, they buy it in quantity. There's food shortages in Venezuela. And then they take it and then they sell it for its real market price and make a margin in another country. And then meanwhile, the people in Venezuela are starving, so they leave the country and they're all flooding to the United States. Price controls have been tried over and over and over throughout history. They create food shortages, they generate black markets, they help organize crime. She stood there, and in her economic address 2 weeks ago, that was one of her keystone measures. I'm like, this is someone who's she and Walz have never together worked a day in the private sector. The 53 people in the Biden-Harris administration that drive the economy, that make the economic decisions, 60% of them have never worked a day in the private sector. The average length of time that the other 40% have worked in the private sector is 3.1 years. So we have people in charge today, and this is the group that Harris would bring with her going forward, who've never done what all of you have done. All of you have had to work for a paycheck. Some of you are small business people. You've signed the front of a paycheck, not the back of a paycheck, because you've created jobs. This administration knows nothing about the economy. President Trump knows everything about how it works. That's why his plan makes complete sense. That's why interest rates will come down. That's why the economy is going to thrive. It's a pro-growth, pro-American, bring jobs back, bring manufacturing back to places like Wisconsin. I mean, he's basically saying, hey, look, we're going to tax people more on tariffs if they make goods overseas. We'll give them a break if it's made here in the USA. I mean, it's just simple as opposed to what we're doing. We'll create incentives for capital and jobs to come here, and we'll create penalties for jobs that go elsewhere. I mean, it's just simple. And it worked when he did it the first time, and it'll work when he's done it again. But with that, closing comments from our incredible panel. But let's go right down the line. We'll go Tommy, Monica, Congressman, and give us your closing thoughts here.
Governor, first off, let me say thank you to you. You've traveled all over the United States. You've built a business. You created jobs. You know how it works. You took over a state, and you did a tremendous job. You went to the border. You saw how it was. You're a common sense individual that believes in getting the job done. And I say that because that's what Republicans do. And I still, to this day, cannot understand. When we have an election, Democrats always want to run like Republicans. Republicans don't run like Democrats. We don't go around and say we're allowed to be socialists. We don't go around and say we want to raise taxes. Do you ever see a Republican going around and say we want to raise inflation? I've never heard of a Republican say that. Democrats always try to become Republican right before the election, and the press lets them get away with it. I think it's time, and I'm not picking on the press, but they report it. And I really believe it's time for us to say, if you want the real thing, vote Republican. If you want to lower taxes, vote Republican. If you want to close the border and allow only legal immigrants to come in, vote Republican. If you want energy and the $2 gasoline prices, vote Republican. You want to get fentanyl down? Go after the drug users. Not the drug users, but the drug sellers. If you want to change America, it's the Republican Party, the Republican candidates, led by Donald Trump, that will make America better. And if he makes America better, all of us benefit. So let's vote for the real thing. Vote for Donald Trump, drain the swamp, get laws back and get the Constitution back, and let's make it happen. Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's carry Wisconsin. We carry Wisconsin. We win the presidency, and that's what it's all about, ladies.
Again, a very hard act to follow, Tommy Thompson. Governor, Congressman, it's such an honor and a joy to share this stage with you tonight. Thank you all so much. And thanks to all of you, too, for coming out and mobilizing in the ways that we need. We've talked about a lot of issues here tonight. The top two issues for the American people in this election are inflation and the broader economy, and illegal immigration and the no borders policy. I just want to spend a second or two on the economy because I spent 2 years at Treasury, including during the COVID crisis, when President Trump and Secretary Mnuchin and the entire team of us saved the American economy and got the American people through the most acute period of that crisis. Very proud of the work that we did. That was an unprecedented crisis. It came out of nowhere, and the Trump administration really stood up and delivered for all of us. The four main pillars of the Trump economic pro-growth agenda: tax cuts, regulatory relief, unleashing our great energy sector, and fair trade deals. He struck fair trade deals with China, Japan, South Korea, Canada, Mexico, and there were others as well. Extremely difficult to do, and Donald Trump did it. His extraordinary speech this afternoon in New York builds on all of those policies, takes them to the next level, and adds some creative policies as well, like no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security benefits, all of which Kamala Harris is now trying to rip off, right? Because they're really creative, out-of-the-box kinds of thinking to get this economy going and relieve the economic burden from all of us. He is going to do all of that and more in the second term to indeed revive the U.S. economy and make America great again. For the first time in a very long time, we have back-to-back administrations to compare and contrast. The economic record, but the record on every other issue. And what is exceedingly clear is that the contrast could not be more distinct and powerful. And the actual contrast is America First, which delivered a robust economy, enforced border, and world peace, versus America Last, which has delivered this historic catastrophe that we've all been suffering through for the last 3.5 years. The choice is very clear, and in fact, there really is no choice. It's Trump, Vance, and it's America First candidates all the way down. Thank you, and God bless.
Congressman.
Governor Monica, thanks for coming to Wisconsin. You're welcome back anytime. Governor Thompson, great to join you here. Thank you for being here. This election is our opportunity to get our country back on track. Rarely do you have an election in the United States of America where you can contrast two incumbents. You have the Biden-Harris administration, and you have what President Trump did over the course of 4 years. And to me, that choice is clear. And I think you agree. But the final piece of this is we only win if we show up and vote. And so it's one thing to show up tonight, and I'm glad you all did. But this election is coming, and it's coming quickly. And in the state of Wisconsin, it's going to be decided by a narrow number of total votes. And it's making sure that everybody here goes out and votes, all of our friends, our neighbors, folks at church, folks at work. And it's going to be incumbent upon all of us to show up and work to turn the vote out. And if we do, and I think we will, we'll be successful. President Trump will win the state of Wisconsin. President Trump will win the presidency of the United States of America with your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I open tonight with a reference to Theodore Roosevelt, and let me close with one as well. You've been encouraged by this great panel up here about the importance of this election here in Wisconsin, that literally in this county, in this town, or in Madison is probably going to be the place that decides the direction of the election and the direction of our country. And it's just a fact, because we've got probably 43 states that have already decided. I mean, it's just the way they are. North Dakota is going to be voting red. We know that. That's a fact. And other states may be voting the other way, but we know that's a fact. Then you get down to the 7 states that are swing states. Within those swing states, there's only like 19 counties that can actually go one way or the other. And we're sitting in one of those counties right here. So what you do and the actions you take in the next 60 days could actually make a difference. And President Theodore Roosevelt said, the great prize in life is the opportunity to work hard at work worth doing. I don't know any work that is more worthy of doing right now than what you're doing here tonight. You're in the arena, you were here, you're learning, you're participating. Those of you that raised your hands and said, hey, I want to volunteer, I want to work at the polls, I want to participate. Think about doing that. We'll make sure that the Trump team gets that information back about how you get connected here, because in some of that's on a county, but you have to be a resident of the county sometimes to be able to be a poll watcher or work in those counties. So we'll make sure that information gets back. But you got an opportunity to do that. And as I said, and everybody here, encourage you to talk to other people. If you know how you're going to vote, you got simple questions that you can ask that's been offered here about what people think about the inflation, about interest rates, about the border. And the simple question is, if somebody's arguing with you about ideology or about some tweet, just ask them, hey, yeah, okay, we can disagree on that. But is there anything that you're paying for right now that's cheaper than it was 4 years ago? I mean, just ask that question. Because if we get focused on things like the economy, like inflation, that's when these are the winning issues. And these aren't winning issues for Republicans, winning issues for independents, for Democrats, for people that are not affiliated with any party, people who've never voted anymore. These are the things that affect every American. And that's why President Trump ran in the first place. And that's why he's running now. All of his policies lift up everybody. They're not like, oh, here's a student loan forgiveness that only forgets people that had that, that doesn't help someone who went to trade school and worked their whole life. It doesn't help the kid that went into the military. It doesn't even help two siblings in the same family. They have been about handing out handouts and trying to encourage people. Some of these are what I call the largest pre-election payoffs ever in the history of America that are patently unfair. President Trump doesn't do that. He's not making promises to this group or that group. When he's talking about lowering interest rates and lowering inflation, when he's talking about securing the border, having safe cities, stopping fentanyl, that helps everybody, whether they voted Republican or not. So you're on the right side of history if you're out there encouraging people. You're supporting policies that will lift up our country. And I just came from a security conference earlier this week that had all of the top military leaders that were there. People that had worked in the military for 40 years said they've never felt like right now, based on intelligence, that the world has been more at risk than it is right now. And we've got two wars that are proxy wars that we're in, one against Iran, one against Russia, that could blow up. We haven't talked about national security, but who do you want? Who do you want negotiating if we're in a spot where we think we're up against Putin, or we're up against the Ayatollahs, or we're up against President Xi? Who do you want? Do you want someone who's strong and who's stood there before, and when he was in office, they backed down and the world was literally at peace because President Trump himself is a deterrent against people taking action against us or our allies. And so this election is about strength versus weakness, strong economy versus a weak economy, strong on the national stage versus weak on the national stage, strong on the borders or not on borders. And so that's just a simple thing. And I think we know what all of you want, because you're here today, not just because you care about yourself, because you care about your kids and your grandkids and your families and your communities. And I always say when the group of people like this is the best of America, because this is a place where people still care about neighbors, and neighbors want to help neighbors, and you care about your communities and you want to give back. And tonight you gave your time to be here. So on behalf of this incredible panel, we say thank you to all of you. Give yourselves a huge hand. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go win this election. Let's go win it in Wisconsin. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm sorry if it's a little glitchy. It's not us. I don't think they wanted a lot of people to see this. But we appreciate you all being here. And we will be back on Saturday live for the Trump rally. And I'm sure that signal's always better. But thank you for joining us. And I will see you all soon. Thank you.